think one of the strangest things about becoming more self-aware and waking up, identity shifting, transforming, healing, really is that you realize how a lot of the things that you used to believe, or a lot of the ways that you were, parts of your personality even, were really just based on conditioning and things that you inherited from family, society, other people you've been around, and were not really a true reflection of your unique essence. How can you develop leadership if you haven't even led yourself? And I think that's something that all of us are called to do, to develop self-leadership. There's a massive lack of self-leadership in the collective. But we can inherit and develop a lot of these ways of being that are not even remotely even close to who we really are and who we could be. And I believe we have a choice in this. If we are able to make those things, bring them from the unconscious into conscious awareness, that's when we can start making informed decisions and conscious choices about who we are and who we want to become. Because otherwise, you're not choosing anything. You are just operating on autopilot, and there is no evolution of self. Not really. It's just a continuation of programming. And I think as a society now, we are going beyond that. We are going beyond the programming and the conditioning, and we are coming into a place now of choice, of bringing the unconscious into conscious awareness, and from that place, choice. And I think bringing this back to the concept of identity shifting, it's not like you're changing your identity. It's actually a homecoming. That's what it should be, I believe. You're not going from one identity to another. You're going from a false identity into an authentic identity, an authentic way of being. And that is about stripping away anything that is inauthentic, anything that is misaligned. And when we have the courage to do that, which is something we can do once we start seeing clearly, developing discernment, bringing unconscious aspects of self into conscious awareness, that's when that process can begin, and that's when that process can solidify. Why a lot of people never get to that point is because it's so threatening to their sense of self, the false sense of self, the small sense of self that has been conditioned and rooted in the psyche over many years. And in order to dismantle that, it is a complete dissolution of self. And in that dissolution of self, it can feel like a death. It can feel like you are dying. You're having an internal death. Some people call it ego death. I think it's more than that. It's not just the ego because ego can never really truly die, because we do need a sense of, there has to be an element of ego in order to be in the human condition. But there has to be a dissolution of aspects of self that are inauthentic and misaligned. But if you have identified subconsciously with those aspects, that's going to feel like death. It's going to feel completely disorienting. And so what happens is the psyche protects people from doing that by keeping them locked in that false identity, because it's too threatening to step out of that, and it's too painful. And this is why a lot of things stay buried in the unconscious as well. This is where denial and repression comes from. There's an aspect of the psyche that is a self-protective mechanism. It kicks in when there's a threat to survival, there's a threat to the ego, there's a threat to that sense of self and that self-concept, because that self-concept is tied to a lot of things, and it's tied to everything that's familiar and safe. Everything you've learned that is familiar and safe is tied to your old sense of self. And in order to dismantle that, everything else will be dismantled as well. And this is why we cling to the old, because we're afraid of the unknown, and because subconsciously our psyche is trying to keep us safe, and we need to penetrate deep within that psyche in order to reach that switch so that we can start that process. And that will only happen when there is enough inner development in order to hold that transformation. And of course that's different with everyone, but we are seeing it on a massive scale right now with people doing this process. I believe healing and transformation can truly begin once we start to have the courage to see things clearly and to accept that a lot of the things that we have seen or has been our self-concept have actually been conditioning. It's actually been programming. It's actually not necessarily been the highest sense of self. And you can ask yourself, where have I allowed society, other people, family members, friends to condition and program my beliefs, my ways of being, my personality, my self-concept, and which parts of those aspects of self are true to me and which are not? Which have I adopted out of fear, out of conformity, out of wanting to fit in, out of wanting to belong? Even subconsciously we do this. We all do this because we're tribal. We have a need to belong to a group. We have a need to, conform essentially. And so subconsciously we override our own inner better knowing in order to get those needs met. But it comes to a point when that's not fulfilling anymore and we have to return back home to ourselves. And that's when this dismantling of the false self can be really pivotal, because that's the only thing that can set you free and liberate you and bring you back to authenticity, peace, alignment, and fulfillment ultimately. And I believe that's the journey we are all called to embark upon now, every single one of us. And I know that that's where I am right now, and I've done a lot of this work and I'm still doing it. If you're doing it too, then welcome. Let's do it together. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. My name is Hege, sharing spiritual insight, poetry, music, and lived reflections to help us see more clearly and to live more truthfully together. Till next time.